Hello friends, this is the part 2 of amino-modulator. In the previous part 1, we discussed the first three group, that is the calcineurin inhibitors, mTOR inhibitors, anti-proliferative drugs, then glucocorticoid. Now this is the fourth one, is a biological agent, and the end there is a brief about the immunostimulant. So here are the learning objective. The first in details about the biological agents. What is the meaning of a biological agents? How they are differ from the routine drugs, and the brief about the monoclonal and the polyclonal antibodies. Then nomenclature of this antibody and the classification of the biological agent. Then individual group and the drug discussion. And finally the clinical application of immunosuppressant in the organ transplantation. The last part is immunostimulant. So, what is the biological agent? These are the biotechnologically synthesized engineered product. Chemically, they are recombinant proteins or monoclonal or the polyclonal antibodies. These proteins are particularly directed to the cytokines or lymphocyte surface antigen, which play an important role in the immune system. So, are specifically designed targeted therapy. As these drugs are the protein in nature, they cannot be given orally, so it has to be given by the parenteral route. So parenteral administration plus the cost of biotechnology engineered product, both together makes this drugs are costly than the routine drugs. It has to be given by the parenteral route. So injection site reaction is common, flu-like symptoms, serum sickness, and the anaphylaxis. So these drugs a little bit cautious. So because of this limitation, they are used in the only severe and the refractory cases of autoimmune disease or the graft versus host reaction in the organ transplantation, and kept as a reserve drugs or the supplementary drugs. Here you can see that antibodies are synthesized by the hybridoma techniques and the recombinant DNA technology. Antigen is immunized to the animal, then isolation of immune cells, then the separation of the antibody forming cells that fuse with the tumor cells and create a hybridoma. This hybridoma screen for the desired antibody, and there is a clonal expansion, and these clone are the single clone, then they produce is one type of immunoglobulin, that is the all homologous homogeneous immunoglobulin, that is known as a monoclonal antibody. So monoclonal antibody is a one type of antibody produced by a single clone of a plasma beta cells, and it required the hybridoma cell lines, and it interact with only one epitope of antigen. While in case of a polyclonal antibody, it is a mixture of immunoglobulins. There is a heterogeneous immunoglobulin. Here you can see that one kind of a beta cell is there. Here there is a clone of a different types of a plasma B cell is required, and it produces a different type of immunoglobulin, and these immunoglobulin interact with the different epitopes of the same antigen. Here you can see that monoclonal antibodies will only interact with the particular epitopes, while polyclonal antibody can bind to the more than one epitope on the same antigen. So these are the difference between monoclonal antibodies and the polyclonal antibodies. Now the next is there is a nomenclature, the type of antibody. Here you can see the basic structure of antibody, that it has a light chain. There is a light chain, here it is a heavy chain, and the two variables are there. The green color part is the variable region FAB, and the blue color part is a constant region, that is a FC. Now you can see that this antibody entirely, there is a variable region and the constant region obtained grown into the animal, that is obtained from the animal, that is the mouse, and here it is a mix, that is the FC region, that is a constant region is contributed by the human, and the variable region is from the animal source, it is known as a chimeric. And the monoclonal antibody, you can find the XI in the nomenclature. This XI indicate that the antibody is chimeric. Now humanized, here the very few portion of the protein is in the variable region. The proportion of amount of protein that is added in the light chain variable region is less, very less. So that is the humanized, that is produced by genetically engineered or V-gene clonings or the eukaryotic expression. And this kind of antibody is identified, there is a identify the ZU in the nomenclature of antibody, monoclonal antibody. The finally is human, fully human antibody. Here you can see that the FC as well as FAB, that variable region and the constant region, is a fully of the human proteins. No any components of animal is here. So it is produced by in vitro antibody libraries or the by transgenic mouse, and the it is added into the, this hybridoma is added into the, inserted into the human. So here that is the term letter U is can be noticed, U can be noticed into the monoclonal antibody nomenclature. So these are the different types of the antibody, and according to the letter denoted by this antibody type preparation into the nomenclature of monoclonal antibody. Here you can see that how to name a monoclonal antibody. The first one is a prefix. Prefix can be any of the letter that is chosen by the pharmaceutical company according to their own desire. Then second part, it must be that antibody target to which system of a body. For example, the bone, it includes O. Then cardiovascular system, it includes CI. In case of a target is immune modulation, then LI. Interleukin, then K. K for interleukin. Tumors, there is a TU, and the virus, that is a VI. So second part is target system of the antibody. The third part is source of antibody, from which source it is obtained. If it is a human, then U, humanized, then ZU, chimeric, the mixture of a human plus animal, that is XI, rat is A, and O for the mouse. So here the third part is a source. The last one is MAB. The MAB itself suggests that it is a monoclonal antibody. So it is very much clear the four components are included in the nomenclature. Let's see here the one of the example, that abeximab. Here AB is prefix. CM means it is a target to the cardiovascular system. That is the GP protein 2B3A. So it is a antiplatelet drugs. And MXI, that means it is the chimeric in the source. The source is a chimeric, and MAB, that is the monoclonal antibody. So this is a chimeric monoclonal antibody targeting to the cardiovascular use. The second one is infliximab. So in INF, that is the prefix. LI, that means immune modulating. XI, that means chimeric, and monoclonal antibody. So this is the chimeric monoclonal antibody targeting to the interleukin, that is the infliximab. So now you can have the idea that how the monoclonal antibody derived their name. So till now we have just discussed about the biological agents includes the antibody and how this basic details about this antibody. Now the classification of biological agent. We have discussed about the monoclonal antibodies and the polyclonal antibodies. The monoclonal antibodies, it targeted toward the individual cytokines. The first one is TNF-alpha inhibitor, that is the etanercept, infliximab, and the adalimumab. The second is IL-1 receptor antagonist, that is anakinra. The third one is interleukin 2 receptor antagonist, that is daclizumab and the basiliximab. And the fourth one is anti-CD3 antibody, that is the muromonab. And so these all the four groups are the monoclonal antibody. The fifth group includes polyclonal antibodies, that is the anti-thymocyte antibody ATG, and the anti-D, that is a Rh negative immune globulin. So both are polyclonal in the nature. Let's see the all the groups one by one. So the first group in the biological agent is the TNF alpha inhibitors. The TNF is secreted by the activated macrophage and other immune cells that act on the T cell receptors, that is located on the surface of a neutrophil, neutrophil, fibroblast, and endothelial cells. This TNF alpha causes the further release of cytokines and the release of enzymes like metalloproteinase and the collagenase, and these all together amplify the immune system. So TNF alpha inhibitors like infliximab, etanercept and adalimumab suppresses the macrophage as well as T cell function, and it suppresses the cell mediated immunity. Here there is an individual TNF alpha inhibitor. The first, they are all differ in their structures and the source of production. The etanercept, you can see that here the human constant region plus TNF alpha, human TNF alpha receptors. So TNF alpha receptor plus Fc portion of a human IgG, and that neutralizes both TNF alpha and beta. Now infliximab, it is a chimeral, that is the, it contains a human plus animal protein. So it is a chimeral antibody against to the TNF alpha. Here you can see that infliximab, the constant region is of the human nature plus variable region is of animal protein. Now adalimumab, that is a fully human recombinant antibody. You can see here that it is a fully variable region as well as constant region FAB and FC, both are totally of human protein. So but obviously regards to the adverse drug reaction, the fully humanized antibody, monoclonal antibody, having the less antigenic side effects as compared to the chimeral and the other animal origin antibody. Therapeutic uses, the TNF alpha inhibitor successfully used in the refractory or the severe cases of autoimmune disease, but it is always used in the combination with the methotrexate. So this is about the TNF alpha inhibitor. This is the second group, that is the interleukin-1 receptor antagonist. The simulated macrophage and mononuclear cell elaborates the IN1, which further in turn activate the helper T cell and other immunocompetent cells. So that causes the more production of interleukins and amplification of the immune response. Here you can see that that is the anakinra packet is there. It is available in the form of injection. So anakinra is a recombinant human IL-1 receptor antagonist. By binding with the IL-1, it further suppresses the cell mediated immunity. It is only used in the autoimmune disease, particularly the refractory cases of a rheumatoid arthritis. Itself anakinra efficacy is lower, so it should be used only when rheumatoid arthritis patient not responding to the conventional disease modifying drugs. Oh, and it should be used in the combination with either methotrexate or there is a TNF alpha antagonist. So this is about the IL-1 receptor antagonist. Third group is IL-2 receptor antagonist. CD25 is expressed on the immunologically active cell. You can see here that active T lymphocyte, not the resting T cell. So this CD4 having a very high affinity to bind with the interleukin 2, and this binding will causes the further cell proliferation and the differentiation of immunological cells and enhances the cell mediated immunity. So anti-CD25 antibody block this IL-2 mediated T cell proliferation and the differentiation. So in that way it suppresses the cell mediated immunity. There are the two drugs, that is the daclizumab and the basiliximab. The daclizumab is humanized anti-CD25 antibodies, the half-life is a 3 week, and the basiliximab, that is the chimeric anti-CD25 antibody, and the half-life is 1 week. So differences in the source as well as the half-life. They are used as a prophylaxis of acute organ rejection as well as maintenance of the graft rejection in the renal and the other transplantation. But it should be combined with the calcineurin, glucocorticoids or other anti-proliferative immunosuppression drugs for the good efficacy. The toxicity, they can produce the anaphylaxis, fever, headache, peripheral edema and the dyspnea, and it promotes the opportunistic infection. Now the third group, that is anti-CD3 antibody. So what is a CD3? An antibody is directed to the CD3. The drug is muromonab CD3. This muromonab CD3 is the oldest. It is available since 1980, the monoclonal antibody. See, it is obtained from the rodent mice, that is the murine monoclonal antibody that is directed or against to the CD3. Nowadays the human monoclonal antibody against the CD3 is also available, that is very less antigenic. So what is a CD3? CD3 is a glycoprotein that is expressed on the activated T cell. Here the activated CD4 helper T cells, and it is expressed near to the T cell receptor. Here the TCR is a T cell receptor. Now this TCR combined with the majorestrep compatibility complex along with the CD3, this wall complex is involved into the antigen recognition as well as activation of a CD4 cell signaling, and there is a proliferation and the release of cytokine. This sequence starts from antigen recognition. So this miromonab antibody bind to the CD3. This complex is not identify the CD4 cell. So CD4 cell undergo the rapid internalization. So internalization means there is an endocytosis of the receptors inside the cell, and this cell further subjected to the lysosomal degradation, and because of that rapid T cell depletion occurs from the blood, and it will causes the suppression of a cell immune response. So miromonab CD3 antibody will prevent the antigen recognition and further cell signaling and the depletion of a T lymphocyte from the blood. So therapeutic uses, it is used for the treatment of acute transplant rejection reaction, particularly in the steroid resistance cases. So it should be always, see, all the immunosuppression should be always combined with each other, because the individual drug is may not be much effective, and there is a more side chances of adverse drug reaction. So two drugs are combined together here in the initial first 2 week of phase to prevent the acute transplantation rejection. It should be given in the combination of a steroids or the cyclosporine or the other immunosuppression. Second part is it is used to deplete the T cell from the donors before the bone marrow transplantation. So this is another important use of a miromonab anti-CD3 antibody. Now the adverse drug reaction. The initial dose are associated with release of a too much cytokine, that is known as a cytokine release syndrome. So many cytokines are released at a time, which give rise to the vigorous reaction, flu-like reaction like the high-grade fever, chills, headache, tremor, myalgia, arthralgia, and weakness. The symptoms severities decreases on the subsequent doses. So this kind of symptoms can be prevented by the pre-treatment with the corticosteroids. So high dose of steroids attenuate this initial reaction. So as per this is the norms or the protocol that the patient receiving the miromonab should be pre-treated with the corticosteroids. So this is about the anti-CD3 antibody, that is the miromonab antibody. So up till now we have discussed the monoclonal antibody, that is the TNF alpha inhibitor, interleukin 1 receptor antagonist, interleukin 2 antagonist, and the third one is a anti-CD3 antagonist. Now there is a polyclonal antibody. So what is the meaning of a polyclonal antibody? These are the mixture of a heterogeneous kind of antibody. They can target to more than one antigen. So this antibody is the anti-thymocyte globulin. This polyclonal antibody is purified and obtained from the rabbit or the horse. These animals are immunized with the human thymic lymphocyte. These human thymic lymphocytes contains the it will produces the antibody, and these antibodies are purified. These antibodies are the against all the CD CD targets as well as CD antigens as well as HLA antigen. So this binds to the lymphocyte and causes the depletion of them. So it is a potent immunosuppressant. The uses is to suppress the acute allograft rejection episode, particularly in the resistance case, steroid resistance cases. So it is again like the other drug, it should be combined with the steroid or other immunosuppression drugs, and induction regimen, but chances of serum sickness and anaphylaxis is higher with the polyclonal antibody as compared to the monoclonal antibody. So there is a list preferred for the induction regimen. The adverse drug reaction are similar to the other, that is the hypersensitivity reaction and the risk of infection. So here the second polyclonal monoclonal antibody, that is the anti-D immunoglobulin. So what is the anti-D? Anti-D is a human IgG antibodies that is directed against the rhesus antigen, that is the Rh antigen of a red blood cell. So why this anti-D should be used? It is used in the Rh negative mother having the Rh positive fetus to prevent the Rh compatibility between the Rh negative mother and Rh positive fetus. Here you can see that mother is negative and the fetus is a positive. This Rh positive antigen from the fetus may through the placenta may circulates into the mother and it induces the antibody formation, and these antibody formation in the mother again back transfer to the fetus and it will causes the antigen antibody reactions because of Rh positive antibody, and these will give rise to the hemolytic disease into the newborn. So to prevent the neonatal hemolytic disease and to prevent such Rh incompatibility, the anti-D solution should be given to the mother. It should be used during the pregnancy after the 28th weeks of the pregnancy to prevent the neonatal hemolytic jaundice or at the time of a delivery. It is used for the prevention of a postpartum or the post-abortion formation of antibody in the Rh negative mother. It should be given 72 hours before the delivery or the abortion. Remember that anti-D immunoglobulin never to be given to the fetus or the infant. The last and important part, that immunosuppression into the organ transplantation. The use of immunosuppression is essential for the successful organ transplantation. The three kind of a regimen is used depending upon the stage of a transplantation: induction regimen, maintenance regimen, and anti-rejection regimen. So the first regimen is induction regimen. The induction regimen should be given during the time of the perioperative periods just before the transplantation of organ, and it is a continued 2 to 12 week maximum after the transplantation. The regimen includes the triple drug compulsory. The first one is calcineurin inhibitors or the mTOR inhibitors plus corticosteroids, prednisolone, and the plus there is a anti-proliferative group, that is the mycophenolate mofetil or the azathioprine. So first three compound, the selection of one drugs from all the three groups, that is the inhibitor of a T cell activators plus steroids plus anti-proliferative. So why to combine this all the three drugs together? The advantages are they are synergistic because all exerts direction by the different mechanism. Then together they permit the reduction of the individual drug dose. So dose related toxicity of each compound is reduced by combining together. Then intensive induction with the three drugs improve the chances of a graft survival, and later on there is a need of a lower dose maintenance regimen. So better to start with the triple drug together. In case of a renal transplantation, the calcineurin compound, that is a cyclosporine, particularly produces a renal toxicity. So in that case there is a mTOR inhibitor plus steroid plus mycophenolate mofetil should be used to avoid the renal toxicity. So renal toxicity, the cyclosporine should be avoided. The newer biological agent is also increasingly used nowadays for the induction therapy, particularly the interleukin 1 and the interleukin 2 antagonist, that is daclizumab and basiliximab. If no rejection develops, then the dose should be reduced after the 12 week and it should merge with the lower maintenance dose. So here the induction therapy should be started after just before the transplantation, continue with the 12 drugs with 3 drugs of a therapy, and then patient shifted to the lower maintenance regimen. Second is the maintenance regimen. The maintenance regimen is given from the after 2 weeks to the prolonged period, maybe probably lifelong. Here again the regimen is a triple drug regimen is a favor, that is a cyclosporine or tacrolimus plus sirolimus or prednisolone and the mycophenolate meflotil or the azathioprine. So the triple drug regimen is remains same as the induction regimen. Only the thing is the dose is a maintenance dose, that is the lower dose. So this again triple drug therapy permits a lower dose, lower toxicity and lower cost, as it is a lifetime maintenance regimen. But same regimen is followed into the induction regimen and the maintenance regimen. But in the maintenance regimens, the challenges are the long-term adverse drug reaction related to the regimen, particularly the renal toxicity. The cyclosporine and tacrolimus are responsible for the renal toxicity. Same way the corticosteroid, that is the important components of the triple drug regimen therapy, but it has its own list of a long-term use related adverse drug reaction like osteoporosis, cataract, peptic ulcer, Cushing-Gott habitus, diabetes precipitation. So whenever it is continue for a longer period, watch for the adverse drug reaction. If any kind of a relevant adverse drug reaction is appear, then the component drug should be dropped for the regimen. In case of intolerance to any first line of a regimen or adverse drug reaction, then substitutes with the second line of a drug, that is a cyclophosphamide, chlorambucil, daclizumab and the basiliximab. Generally, to avoid the renal toxicity, after 1 year, the cyclosporine should be stopped. But on this discontinuation of a cyclosporine, there may be incidences associated with the acute rejection. Single or two drugs can be used, but more episodes of the acute rejection. So, better to avoid the single or the double drugs. Instead, the triple drug therapy in the lower dose should be better. Now the third one is anti-rejection regimen. This is to suppress the episode of acute rejection. So starts with the steroid therapy, steroid pulse therapy. Pulse therapy means there is a higher dose of steroids in the intravenous day for the 3 to 5 days. So intermediate acting steroids, that is methylprednisolone, should be started intravenously 0.5 to 1 gram daily for 3 to 5 days and wait for the response. If no response is there, then add the Muromonab CD3 antibody or the antithymocyte antibody as a rescue therapy plus steroids. If the patient is resistant to the steroid, then starts tacrolimus, sirolimus or the mycophenolate meflotil. So this is about the management of a rejection reaction regimen. The last is adverse effects of immunosuppression therapy. The first one is an increased risk of infection. Because of a suppression of immunity, there are the chances of a bacterial, viral, fungal or the opportunistic infection is there. Second is the development of a lymphomas and related malignancy, because after long latency due to the weakening of immunological surveillance against the neoplasia. So damaged cell, one of the important function of immune system is to check and repair of a damaged cell that remains unchecked because of a long-term suppression of immunity. So there may be a chances of malignancy related to the T cell. Now the last part, that is the immunostimulant. So immunostimulants are the substances that modulate or stimulate the immune system by stimulating the function of one or more the system components. Basically, it enhances or the boosts up the body's immune system. So when there is a need of this immunostimulant, they are used, particularly they are useful into the chronic infectious condition, in the immunosuppressive condition or the immune deficient situation, or in case of a tumor or the cancer. It is used as an adjunctive therapy. It is to boost up the body's immune system to cope up with this situation. The various immunostimulants are the microbial products like the BCG, that is the vaccination is the best example, active vaccination, or the passive administration of a ready-made antibody, that is the immunological product, that recombinant interferons or interleukin 2. Then some few of the drugs that stimulates the T cell function and B cell function, they are the chemicals, that is the levamisole and the thalidomide, and others are the granulocyte macrophage colony stimulating factor, that is the GM-CSF, that enhances the generation of a WBC series and immunomycin. So this is in the brief about the immunostimulant. So this is the ending of a chapter, that is immunomodulator. Thank you. Have a nice day.